What's up, guys? We're starting another video on the computer. So I've got a project that I think you guys would like. I'm going to be building a boombox, sort of. It's not going to be totally portable. It's not going to be like battery powered or anything, but I want music outside while I'm working on stuff, and I don't want to deal with batteries. So what I'm going to have is I'm going to have it hooked up to 110 power, and then I'm just going to be using basically the same system I've had in my house to run my subs. So I've had this power supply for a while now, and I've been pretty happy with it. I've currently got it hooked up to this subwoofer single channel monoblock, and it does really well. So what I want to do is I've currently got this power supply and this amplifier on a board, and what I want to do is add either a 4-channel or a 2-channel speaker amplifier to that board, and I want to have a switch to either turn on this monoblock or turn on the either 2 or 4-channel amplifier. That way I can either power my subs in my room, or I can put it on this boombox I'm going to make and power the speakers on it. That way it can be kind of versatile and do both things. So what I want to do is I'm going to show you guys here in a minute the design I've got for the boombox, but I want to show you guys the frequency graph that I've got for it so far. So this is WinISD. If you guys are into making like sub boxes and stuff, you've probably heard of it, if not used it. And I put in the speakers I'm going to be using Sky High Car Audio EL-64s. They were speakers that I got originally to put in my Jetta, but I figured out what was wrong with the Jetta, and it was not a power handling issue, it was an issue on my part with my tuning. So I fixed that, and now I've got these speakers that are doing nothing. I've got a set of crossovers, and I've got a set of tweeters to go along with it, but they're just going to be chilling inside the box. The box obviously is going to be tuned for the EL-64s, the mid-bass woofers. So this is what I've got set up so far. It's a box that is going to be 0.7 cubic feet. It's tuned to 80 hertz. And as you can see, I've got the vents set up to be 7 inches wide, 2 inches tall, 5.3 inches long. The group delay on it is pretty good. 21 milliseconds of delay at 68 hertz, which I'm going to be setting the crossover higher than that, so it'll already be quieting down before it gets to that. So anything above really 80 hertz, it's going to have really good group delay on. It shouldn't be noticeable to the ear. And then air velocity is also really low. And from my experience, I'm just comparing this to my ported box that I have in the Jetta. The Jetta, its box, you can't hear any port noise on it from the wind, and its port velocity is twice as high, and its group delay is, let's see here, 27 milliseconds, 20, so it's about another third higher. So I'm pretty happy with that. I think this is going to work out pretty well. So let me show you the box design. Alright, so this is what we're working with. These are the EL-64s, and let me tell you, they are chonky. They are nice and heavy, so I'm totally certain that these are going to easily take whatever I throw at them. These are the tweeters we're going to be using. This is a 3 ohm crossover. I'll just be mounting this inside the box, and then I'll be running the wires into the box and then internally to the woofer and to the tweeter. So that takes care of that. Play nice, come on. And this is the box design. So like I was saying, I've got that panel that I've got my power supply and my amplifier on right now, and what I want to do is make it slide into the back of the box and then lift up out of the back of the box so that I can take it and transport the power supply and amplifiers separate to the boombox. As you can see, I've got just a lot of chicken scratch here. This is just what works for me to make these things, is just designing, revising many times to get something that works. So what I originally had in mind was I wanted something that had the mid-bass speaker facing forward. This will be the front of the box, rear, the sides, and then I wanted the tweeters to be mounted in the side of the box on either side, slightly pointing off to either side. So I just think the aesthetic of that would look cool. I am going to be making a ported box, as you would have seen earlier with the port dimensions and everything, tuning. These were the box and port dimensions. And then to make everything easy, I just took the square value of 1.75 by 16.5 tall, and I just took that, and that was my amount that I took off for the angles on each side. And then the speakers I just took off 0.05 cubic foot, and then the port I measured out, added those three together, and that gave me 0.155 cubic feet larger than 0.7 that I had to go in order to have 0.7 once all the things are taken up for that will be using box space. I don't really care about the tweeters taking up space, and I don't really care about the crossovers because they don't take up much space either. So I started building the power rack because I got my amp in. I ended up going with a Down for Sound MM1002. This is their newer 2-channel amps, which that's all I'm going to need for the Boombox. And if I ever want to hook it up to anything else that is a component set, there'll be a crossover. So this will really power 4 speakers if it's in a component set. So that's this guy. This is my 1 channel that I was talking about, and my power supply. So I came over and lengthened the cord for it, so now it's got a nice, I don't know, maybe 10-15 foot cable on it. I made some mounts that I'm going to powder coat black, and then when I mount these, I'm going to elevate them off the ground with some rubber spacers as well. I just put them like this just for the time being. I'll cut the rubber when it comes time to finally assemble this, because those need powder coated, and I got other stuff to do. Like, I gotta cut this board down to size, I gotta take a 1/4 inch off the top, then that off there. So this is going to be 17 1/4 tall. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna run the bottom of the sub box out an extra, I don't know, 3/4 of an inch or an inch, so that this will be the bottom and this whole board will be able to sit down. And then I'm either going to use Velcro, I think, or maybe like on the front of a toolbox where you like flip up a little hook and then you like latch it down, if that makes sense. This is my toolbox, and this is the sort of latch I was talking about where it flips up and then latches down. And then I might have one of those on the side or on the top or something just to hold this onto the Boombox. But so far, really happy with it. Now what I'm going to do is working on making the cables from here to here, and then I got to go get my switch for switching my amplifiers. I got the board all assembled. Got all my positives, negatives, amps, power supply, the switch to turn on one or the other amp. It's all done. The only thing left is just going to be cutting the 1/4 inch off, and then this. Right now, I've got this in the center section, so I'm going to select the top amp. You can hear the fan kick up on the power supply. Shut it off. And I'll select this amp. There we go. I'm getting ready to start building the box. Got all the parts laid out. I got my latches in that I was talking about the other day. They look pretty good. And then I powder coated all my parts. These are the feet for the 110 to 12 volt transformer, and then the stand for the switch. So all that's set up. I got some maple plywood, which is what we're going to be building it out of. So let's go start cutting some boards. I just got those 3 cuts made. They're just chilling over there. And even though I have extra pieces of wood to do these 2.5 pieces, they're being cut on 45-degree angles each cut, and it's a lot easier to do that on a bigger piece of wood. So I'm going to end up doing it on this piece, and then I'll have to figure out what I'm doing with the rest of them, but so far so good. So my thumb's kind of where the port's going to be, and I got everything cut though. I'm all ready to start sanding. Those are the port pieces. That's the power rack. So I'm going to go along with my rotary sander, probably 100 grit, clean up all the edges, and then I'll come back with my DA sander with 220 and then just really sand all the faces, get all the hairs off the side, and make it look nice. So I got all the sanding done, all the corners are nice and pretty, everything's nice and flat. So now I'm going to start working on doing the cutouts on all the pieces before they get assembled. That way if I screw something up when I'm cutting it out, I just make another one and it doesn't affect the box. Whereas if you try to assemble everything, do the cuts, you screw it up, well, you just screwed your whole box. So do this first. So I've made a template for just a generic 6.5. So now all I have to do is just scribe this thing on here. As you can see, it pretty much fits perfectly, which is why I made this that width. So what I'll do is just scribe on here the inner circle, and then the bolt holes. I'll just drill out the bolt holes with a pilot hole. I'll take this piece off. I'll take the jigsaw, cut inside the circle I made. Then I'll take this, bolt it on, or screw it on rather, and then I'm going to come back with the router and use this as a gauge. I'm going to use a flush trim, and I'll flush trim this to this inner dimension, so it'll all be perfect. I won't be able to do this sort of a process with the tweeters, because since the tweeters are on an angle and they're wider than this intersection, I'm going to have to do that hole once these pieces are attached to the front and to the sides, because that hole is going to cut slightly into here to make clearance. So a little bit of a more difficult process there, but overall it should still be pretty easy. I got the front all done. Very happy with how it turned out. So that guy's going to be set to the side. He's all done. That's the bottom, the rear, the two sides, parts of the front, and then this is the top. So I've got some plexiglass inside and I feel like using it. So what I'm going to do is I'm probably going to measure in 3/4 inch, and then maybe, I don't know, another 1/2 inch or so, maybe 3/4 inch, and then I'm just going to cut this out and have a plexiglass here in the top. The center is all cut out. I sanded it all. I got my marks for how far out I want to create this ledge. So what I think I'm going to do is, I've got this board, I'm going to clamp it down, probably sandwich it between this between the two pieces of wood, and then I'll measure down how far it is, add a 1/4 inch to it, and then set my router to that depth. I've got a flush trim on it, so it'll gauge how far in to go off of this, and I don't know, maybe it'll work, maybe it won't. I am extremely surprised that that actually worked. I'm going to get this all set up. I'm going to put T-nuts in the back of it for bolts to hold it down, get all that sanded, get all that ready to put the T-nuts in, and I think that's about it. I think we're getting pretty close to being able to start putting stuff together. This was one of the last pieces I had to work on. I got all the holes drilled, T-nuts put in, and I started putting the box together, bottom, back, right side, and I was just working on it, and I realized I'm gonna have to take a cutoff wheel and cut these T-nuts down, because there's a 3/4 inch piece of wood that's gonna set in here. Second side is on. You can see I just have this set up here just to look at it, but this is the board for the power rack, and as you guys can see, it's meant to just sit on there like that, and then it's flush with the top. So I kind of goofed. For whatever reason, I marked this as 10 inches wide and this is 10.5, so there's a 1/4 inch gap on each side, which is fine, I guess. Doesn't really matter that, but I'm just gonna have to take note of that when I'm mounting those latches on the side. I made the new port pieces, got it put in. I trimmed those pieces for the top here, and everything is in. It's glued on. So there's a little gap here, unfortunately, is what it is, but I got the tweeter holes drilled. They're all just kind of set in here, and this is what it's gonna look like. So it kind of looks a little goofy, but you know, I'm here for it. I like it. So when you look inside, the plan is to have the crossovers on either side. So this crossover on this side will feed 2, the crossover on that side will feed 2. So should be pretty good. Got the little ledge on the back for the power rack to sit on. I think I'm going to pull everything out and get these cut off, because this is going to be cut to the same angle that this is at, so that there isn't these angles sticking out. Just start cleaning it up, getting it ready for some wood filler, and then a lot of sanding, and then stain polyurethane. Both the top and bottom corners are cut. I got everything sanded nice and smooth. Took the router, flush trimmed everything. Some of the nails were still proud here, so I took a chisel and drove them in. One of the nails came through here, so I kind of dug out behind the nail and pressed it in. Where I went in here and here came into the speaker, so I ground them down and then pounded them in and resanded that. The box in here, or the top of the port here, well, I can't fit the nail gun in, so I noticed that there was like a 1/4 inch or more gap between the sides and the top of the port, which was bad. I mean, I can fill that in with sealant on something like this. It's not going to blow out like it would on a sub box, but still less than ideal. So I ended up coming in with a drill, drilling it, and then just absolutely sending 4 screws into it. So that seems to be holding it down. Hopefully it stays like that. I'm getting ready to take just a piece of sandpaper, go over it all, make sure all the edges are cleaned up, and then I'm going to come in and start filling all the gaps in with wood filler. I'm not totally sure what I'm going to do with this. I know I'm going to stain it. I'd like to take a torch to it and like kind of flame the bottom of it to give it another little cool added effect and see how that looks. I might do the edges as well to kind of make them stand out, and then I'm going to polyurethane over all of it, just like I have with my other wooden boxes that I've done. So a lot of work left, but a lot of work has been done. That is a big caterpillar. Had dinner, did a couple little more things on it. I was able to get the 2 terminals for each crossover, positive and negative, obviously, and then I did a slight kerf or bevel on the port opening. So I've got my wood filler here, and I'm going to just kind of tinker around and see if I can't get this thing filled in a little bit. I gotta wipe it down first, clean all the old sawdust out, but starting to look pretty. I got all the wood filler on. Over the next few days, I'll sand and just repeat this process. It's pretty boring, but it's looking good though. It's starting to really take shape. Over the weekend, I got the wood filler all sanded. Had to do another coat on it. And then today, I put the stain on it. I used a red mahogany stain. I got the board in behind there for the power rack done as well. And before I stained everything, I went along and took a flame and just kind of, or a propane torch, and just kind of accented some of the spots. So it's kind of hard to see on camera, but like all the edges are darker and there's some accents just around the board. So all looks pretty good. I sanded it with sanded the wood filler with 100, and then went up to 220 and then 320. So now it's still all pretty smooth. After I put the first layer of polyurethane on, I'll have to come back, resand it and all that, but I'll get to that when I get to that. So since I just put this on, it's still curing out, so can't do anything with it. So I made a little template here for the Lexan top. So I'm going to be cutting it out of that stuff. Like I said earlier, it's 1/4 inch, so I'm going to get this traced onto there and get it cut out. As you guys just saw, I got this all fit to the box. Really happy with how it turned out. Fits pretty tight all the way around, so after dinner I'll get all the holes cut in it for where all the screws are going to go, and then this is done. I got the top Lexan layer attached to the box. I took the bottom protective layer off and set it on here. That way I could see where I needed to drill through. I just lined up the drill with the holes, drilled through, and that seemed to work out pretty good. So now that this is done, I'm going to take it all inside and let it dry overnight, let the stain dry, and then tomorrow I'll start on the polyurethane. I've been working on the polyurethane this morning. I got the rear of it done and the left side and that angled piece right there, and then the top done. So I'm really happy with how it's turning out. The stain kind of sunk in and is lightened up, and you can see some more of the burn marks now. I'm a big fan of how this is looking. I really like it. I think it's going to turn out really well. So I'm going to just let this dry for the rest of the day. Not much else I can do on it. I put a bunch in my little jar here so that my can doesn't stay open. And so since this doesn't take up much, I'm going to start working on this box, which I think you guys will probably see after this. So if you really like subwoofers and a lot of bass, you're going to like this video. I got all the polyurethaning done. I didn't record any more of it just because it's the same old thing. Just repeating again and again and again. But it turned out real nice. So I've got all my power supply stuff and all the hardware. I'm about to start putting the power supply stuff together. I've got handles and feet for the box. So I'm going to figure out where those are going to be mounted and drill the holes for them. And this is going to start going together.
I love to work at nothing all day, and I've been taking care of business every day. Taking care of business every way. I've been taking care of business. It's all mine. Taking care of business and working overtime. Work out.
As you guys just saw, I had it all together. and was doing some testing with it. I ended up taking it out and did some playing with it, and I was pretty happy with it. I was kind of worried that the mid-ranges were going to overpower the tweeters, and they do. The sensitivity is 3 decibels higher at 93. I think it's 93 or 92 on the speakers. It's only 90 on the tweeters. So I've got a buddy of mine that's interested in a speaker setup sort of like this. So I might use those for him, because the woofers I would get him, or the mid-ranges I'd get him, would not be as wild as these. So I think I'm going to get another set of tweeters. I'll get another set of woofers for him, and then that whole power supply, and maybe I'll do a video on that when it comes time to do that. But all the amping, all the amps and that rack worked. All my wiring worked out well. Everything fit together. The only thing I'm going to change is I was using these little cables as handles, and I didn't really like it. They stuck up too high. So I got some steel here. I'm going to just bend new ones. And once I get these bent, I'm going to powder coat everything black. Well, sand it so all the edges are smooth, then powder coat it black. And then it'll go together with, for final assembly, I put it together. It didn't have any gasket material or anything, so it was leaking and all that. But I'm going to get this stuff powder coated, then we'll be on our way to being done. I ended up doing some more work to it. So those tweeters came in, and so far I'm pretty happy with them. They actually surpassed my expectations, and the little bit of listening I've done so far, they're actually kind of too loud, but that's just sitting inside, so maybe once I get outside it'll be fine. But these are CT Sounds TX-175s. You ain't seeing them in there. But I got them put in, and I also got an audio control, what does that say? ACX BT1, and so far I'm happy with it. I haven't really played a bunch with it, but I've got it hooked up to the speaker now, so I don't have to be wired in with my aux cable anymore, so I can actually record music with my phone, which is kind of what I was waiting on. So now that it's all set up, now we're going to go listen to it. I don't know if you guys can hear that, but I've noticed that since I turned it on, when the Bluetooth turns on, there's a ton of static coming out of the speaker. So I'm not too thrilled with that. I don't know what I can do to improve that. I've noticed that every system, including my subs that I've had that power supply on, there's just a ton of static in it. I think that's just kind of how it is. So I don't necessarily think it's the Bluetooth module's fault, but just something I've noticed. Got the speaker set up outside. Gonna start playing some music. I'm gonna be working both here and on the far side of all these tractors, so probably 30 to 50 yards away at the most. And I've played out here a little bit already, just not today. And unfortunately there's a little wind today, but even with the wind, I'm sure I'm going to hear it pretty clearly. It gets loud pretty easily. And that sounds good. It was at about 3/4 volume. I can't stand to be that close to this thing with it any higher than that. That's permanent ear damage right there. I'm gonna turn up and walk back to where I was earlier. I forgot that with this being Bluetooth, I can't wander a long ways away, unfortunately. Oh, that's awesome. That's the first time I've like really let it go outside. We don't really have any neighbors anywhere near us, but we do have ones kind of down that direction, and I don't want to do that for too long because they're older and they're a little opinionated on loud stuff, so I'm gonna cut it there. And one thing I should add is that I have all the filters turned off right now, so the mid-ranges are getting like whatever notes the music has, which some of them are pretty low, so I need to come back and retune it and put the high-pass filter on it so that it takes out like the really low frequencies. That way it doesn't sound quite as muddy at higher volumes, but at like half volume and maybe a little more, it sounds really good. But I'm sure once I get the tuning done and get that high-pass filter back on there, it'll sound good. But I can't stand to be around this thing at anything more than at a maximum 3/4 volume. It just, these tweeters scream, which actually I was a little worried that they were gonna be too much, but outside they're perfect because higher frequencies don't carry as well outside. They're easier to get loud, but they don't carry through the wind and whatnot as well. So to be outside where I've got wind and trains and planes and automobiles, it works out pretty well. So, and I've only got this amplifier giving it roughly, I think it was 150 watts, or no, I think it's 75 watts, 175 combined. No, that doesn't math. I think it's around 70 watts per crossover. So that's roughly what the speakers are going to be getting. So not anything near what they could be getting, but for me anyways, it's plenty loud. I got pretty good hearing and I try not to ruin it. So overall, I'm really happy with it. I can't see myself changing anything on it. I'm pretty thrilled. The Bluetooth for the most part is working really well, and yeah, I'm just really thrilled with it. I think overall the aesthetics of it turned out really well. I really like the look of those bullet tweeters as well. I like how everything looks inside, and I've actually got another amp, DSP, some cables, tweeters, and mid-ranges showing up today because I'm going to build a second one of these for one of my friends at work, because I took this into work and he liked it so much that he's like, yep, sold, you need to make me one. I was like, all right, no problem, I can do that. So I'm probably going to do another video on that. I actually just got interrupted by his stuff being delivered. So I was about to say, he does a lot of woodworking and stuff, so he's going to be building the box. I'm going to be drawing him the blueprint as far as like what he needs to make, and then once he has it done, I'm going to put it all together and get it all tuned and all that stuff. And obviously I've done all the math work to figure out the tuning and the box volume and all that. So that should all be pretty fun. So like I said, I'm super happy with it. I think this is going to be the end of the video. Like I said earlier, I've been using this outside, and I've also been using it inside while I work out, which I think this is going to be the perfect intro into some bonus content. So aside from working on trucks and engines and stuff, something else that I have as a hobby is working out. So it's not something I really show a ton of because it's kind of a weird topic, but I'm going to start putting in some videos of me working out, because here coming into the fall is usually when I start lifting really heavy. Usually throughout the summer I don't lift at all, and so just within the last month or so I've started lifting heavier again and getting back in shape. This video is me doing 225 for 6 on bench, which is pretty pathetic, but as you can see I'm really shaky and I'm just getting used to things, so it is what it is. But I'm going to start tracking my lifting, and any of my better lifts I will put on here. and bonus content at the end of the videos. So since this is the first bonus content covering it, I'm going to put in some of my PRs. So far, none of them are really that great, but I've hit a 300-pound bench, 300 even, a 505-pound deadlift, and a 355 squat, which I know my squat is really low, but I've got tiny legs, and when I started lifting the first 4 years or so, I had no way to train legs at all. I had no leg extensions. I didn't have a bar that was enough to deadlift. Well, actually, I take that back. I did deadlift, but it was RDLs because I didn't have enough weight to do like a full deadlift, and I didn't have anything to squat. So you can see where I was benching at. That is my squat rack. So I built that, and since then I've been training legs. But recently I've been into mountain biking, so I've been kind of saving my legs for that, getting just massive quad pumps. So if you guys like working out and stuff, hopefully you'll enjoy this a little bit. If you don't, hopefully you get into working out because it's something that everybody should do. But this can be then this end of the bonus content. So I appreciate you guys watching. If you got to this point, have a great day.